at a premium. Connect the SW8 USB to both your primary and backup computers using the dual USB connections on the rear panel. There are two modes for the SW8 USB playback switching. In manual operation mode, when a failure occurs on your primary computer, simply press the front panel select switch or the optional JR1 latching foot switch remotely to change over to your backup playback computer without missing a beat. Engage the switch on the front panel to activate auto switch mode, allowing the SW8 USB to automatically switch over to the backup computer when a fault is detected. Dual front panel LEDs show that the SW8 USB is receiving a tone track from each computer. This allows the SW8 USB to detect any dropout immediately. In auto switch mode, the SW8 USB switches noiselessly to the backup computer in less than 10 milliseconds, so the performance goes on without interruption. The SW8 USB also features a start-stop foot switch input, which allows you to easily synchronize playback between both computers. This can be controlled using the JR1 momentary foot switch or any standard contact closure momentary foot switch. To further protect against failure, the SW8 USB has two power supply inputs with LEDs on the front panel to monitor their status. For larger shows with a higher channel count requirement, you can link up to 3 SW8 USB units simultaneously, providing up to 24 channels of fully redundant playback tracks. With the SW8 USB in your playback rig, you'll never have to worry about failure during a live performance again.
Hi, I'm Jay Porter with an overview of the acoustic series from Radial Engineering. So the acoustic series is 4 different acoustic preamps for any type of player. Starting with the PZ Pro, this is our flagship of the line. This is the full 2-channel acoustic command center, if you will. So this is 2 full EQ sections, allows player to blend 2 different sources together, whether it's 2 different magnetics, a magnetic and a piezo, or even a pickup and a microphone can be all blended together, EQ'd separately, and create a nice combined sound. Or for the player that has a couple different instruments on stage, they can make sure they're EQ'd and level matched across both instruments, grab one, and you're good to go. You've got your mute switch, so for silent switching and on-stage tuning. You've got a clean boost, which can be toggled on and off, and can be combined with an effects loop with the middle foot switch, and then you can toggle between the 2 channels with the AB control here. Flip around to the back. You've got a pre and post direct box output, so nice high quality radial DI outs. You can go pre-EQ if your sound engineer wants something that's not affected by the EQ on this pedal, and then post, keep your nice EQ sound on stage or in the studio. 48 volt phantom power microphone input for those nice clip-on condensers, and then your 1/4 inch inputs with selectable piezo boosters, so you can get the right input impedance for your piezo pickup when you're using either of these inputs. Next is the PZ Pre. So the PZ Pre is also a 2-channel, but it shares the EQ across both channels. So this is a little bit more suitable for somebody that's got 2 very similar sounding instruments or 2 very similar sounding pickups. They can blend or use instruments separately, but a little bit more simplified by just having that single EQ section. Again, it's got your boost, it's got a mute switch for silent tuning, and also has the pre and post DI outputs, just like its big brother, the PZ Pro. Next we have the PZ Deluxe, which offers an even more simplified EQ section. So not to get too confusing, just allows you to fix those problems on stage and maybe tailor your sound a little bit more the way you like it. Also has a mute switch for that, again, for that silent on-stage tuning, and still does have the clean boost. Single DI output on this one, so this is post EQ, so you just have that 1-channel output, but a little bit simpler and easier, especially for somebody that's only using a single instrument or a single pickup source. Finally, we have the AC driver. So the AC driver is for some
The SW8 USB is a combination between an 8-channel USB playback interface and an auto switcher that allows you to have two playback computers connected simultaneously for redundancy. The front panel features transformer-isolated XLR outputs to feed the PA system, along with controls that allow you to switch, making the SW8 USB ideal for fly rigs and lightweight touring where size and weight is at a premium. Connect the SW8 USB to both your primary and backup computers using the dual USB connections on the rear panel. There are two modes for the SW8 USB playback switching. In manual operation mode, when a failure occurs on your primary computer, simply press the front panel select switch, or the optional JR1 latching foot switch remotely to change over to your backup playback computer without missing a beat. Engage the switch on the front panel to activate auto switch mode, allowing the SW8 USB to automatically switch over to the backup computer when a fault is detected. Dual front panel LEDs show that the SW8 USB is receiving a tone track from each computer. This allows the SW8 USB to detect any dropout immediately. In auto switch mode, the SW8 USB switches noiselessly to the backup computer in less than 10 milliseconds, so the performance goes on without interruption. The SW8 USB also features a start-stop foot switch input, which allows you to easily synchronize playback between both computers. This can be controlled using the JR1 momentary foot switch or any standard contact closure momentary foot switch. To further protect against failure, the SW8 USB has two power supply inputs with LEDs on the front panel to monitor their status. For larger shows with a higher channel count requirement, you can link up to 3 SW8 USB units simultaneously, providing up to 24 channels of fully redundant playback tracks. With the SW8 USB in your playback rig, you'll never have to worry about failure during a live performance again.
It just needs a little bit more than a DI. So basic simple DI box, except it has a low cut and a filter. So you can get rid of that low frequency rumble and maybe notch out a feedback frequency on stage, but you can still mute for tuner output, do that on stage tuning, and then again, high quality radial DI box output. So the acoustic series from Radial. No matter what you need, you kind of have a solution here for your acoustic guitar on stage or in the studio.
Good afternoon. Hi, can you all hear me? All right, so this is Audiovisual Systems, and we are hosting Radio Engineering from Canada here in Ghana, and we are doing live stream from our office at Wager, White Cross. And today we are going to do some question and answers for all the questions you have when it comes to DI boxes, when it comes to audio playback from keyboards, from computers, from bass guitar, from electric guitar, what kind of whatever instrument that you are going to put into the mixer, we are going to talk about how to best connect them so that you can have a very good sound into your sound system. And today we are very privileged to have two of the very best when it comes to that in the game at Radio Engineering. We have Mike McKay. Hi, Mike. Good afternoon or good morning there in Canada. Hi, Mike. Good morning. Hi, Mike. Can you hear me? Sorry, Steve. Steve.
Oh, yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
All right, Steve. So that's Steve McKay. Sorry, not Mike. Yeah, and we have Mike Bauer, also from Radio Engineering, and they'll be the guys who will be answering all our questions when it comes to DI boxes. So we'll go on a short commercial break. We come back and we take the questions one after the other. If you have any question concerning DI boxes, how they are connected to the mixer, how they are connected from the instrument, please don't hesitate. Put it into the comment box. We'll pick it up and we add it up. So it's going to be a great time. We'll go on a short commercial break, then we start answering our questions. All right, welcome back. So we have Mike Bauer and Steve McKay from Radio Engineering who will be doing some good answers on our questions. So we'll just go straight to the point. We have about some 1 hour, 30 minutes to do some good justice. But before that, I would like Mike to give us a brief history about radio engineering, and we take it from there. Mike.
I can answer.
Yeah. Or you, Mike, we can't hear you. Please check your mic, please. All right, Steve, can you help us with that whilst we sort Mike out?
Yeah, we're not getting audio on mic. Okay. Radio engineering started about 25 years ago. The there's companies that focused on audio equipment over the years, but on the focus of consoles, speakers, amplifiers, and of course instruments. And one was really focusing on the interconnectivity of all of these products, and he found an to get in and develop a series of products, starting with regular DI boxes. DI boxes originally, when live concerts began, came from the broadcast industry, and they were really designed for live application. And what we found was that using very, very high quality components and also recognizing that different require a different handling of that audio. So if you have a passive guitar, it's going to have a certain level, gain, and it's going to have an impedance. And that is going to determine what components you have in that DI box. Conversely, if it has different characteristics electronically and acoustically. you go to keyboards and electronic drum machines and those kinds of things. There you have a much more active and a higher gain situation. And again, you have to treat differently. So by going in and looking at the component level, first began with very high quality Jensen transformers in our original ADI. Found because of Jensen's work on transformers, we were able to gain a far superior sound stage. And the fact that most transformers created noise problems, and what Jensen had done was by expanding the frequency response far beyond human hearing, it also pushed out those noise and anomalies that were found in the audio system. And it ended up leaving us with a pure sound. So if you look at the frequency response of our JDI for the active version, they're extremely high. Going through and looking and selecting each individual components within that audio pack within the to maximize the audio quality. And that has led us to becoming the number one choice for professional live concerts, recording studio applications, reamping, and over the years expanded, and we have actually purchased the Jensen transformer factory. It now is wholly owned by Radial Engineering. And we also purchased the licensing and trademark of Reamp. Now Reamp is 100% a real brand. And expanded the line as we have grown. More engineers to us. I have a problem doing, for example, backing tracks, how to switch those seamlessly. Multiple audio sources from the live stage out to the front of house. We have rack DI and have our X8 series. So we've just expanded the line as it is required by the industry and by engineers who have had specific problems and wanted us to address them. That's a brief history of radio.
Wow.
And we're delighted to be here today sharing some time with. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Steve. It's a great to know where you started and where you are and where you're going to. Yeah. So would like to hear from Mike and make sure he's fine, and also he can give us a word or two. Then we start taking the questions. Can we hear Mike? We still can't catch your audio. Wow, still not catching your audio. All right, Mike, if you can try reconnecting, so yes, please. All right, so I'll just give a little information over here. So Radial Engineering is a Canadian company that mainly does DI boxes. And if you're looking for DI boxes all over the world that is trusted by top brands like top artists, top engineers, top producers, it's Radial Engineering. The first time I got to use a Radial Engineering product was about 7 years ago on a gig, and it was part of a keyboard that came on the gig. And I realized that when we used it, I thought it was just a normal DI box, and that was it. We went on the next gig. That keyboard didn't come. We used another DI box for another keyboard. It was okay. And I realized the third gig we went on, we were having issues with ground noise. So I did a ground lift, and I realized that it had reduced it a bit, but it was still in there. So I asked the gentleman if we can get the other keyboard on the next gig, and he gave it to us, and we used it around the same venue, and we activated the ground lift, and it was so clear. It was eliminated completely. So I just saw that the design is not just a very heavy box, which is robust. I call it bulletproof. Yeah, but the circuitry really works. The circuitry really works. And aside that, as I grew up as an audio engineer, I began to listen to quality. And I realized that whenever I have recordings with a radial on a keyboard, it sounds different from others. So the very clear thing about it is the overload. When you overload when you overload radial DI boxes, you tend to have a very smoothing effect on the hard plays. Yeah, so I realized it was a bit more nicer to listen to than other ones, which have had a little sharp edge to it. Yeah, and as time went on, we began to make friends with radio engineering, and we are so delighted to be distributing engineering across Ghana. Yeah, and anyway, you're looking for the products that are showing on today's program, anyway you're looking for it, just make sure that you come to White Cross Wager and you would get them. So we have the SB1, we have the SB2, we have the JDI stereo, we have the JDI, we have the J48, we have the Pro 1, Pro DI, we have the Pro D2, we have the direct drive, we have the relay. We have a wide variety of radio engineering products that I bet you would be of a great help to your productions. And they are at very good rates. They are very good rates, very competitive rates, and I can promise you that if you come here, you would get very competitive rates. All right, so let's just try Michael again, then we start taking the questions. Michael, can we hear you, please?
Let's see. Is third time a charm, Caleb?
Great.
Thanks.
All right, sure. So just a little background about yourself, then we start taking the questions.
Yeah, sure. My background is mainly working in recording studios. So I worked in New York at two large facilities for about 8 years before moving back to Canada, which is where I'm from originally. And then I landed in Vancouver, where Radial Engineering is based. And so I've been there for the past 8 years. I work mainly in our tech team, which includes technical support. But I also work as part of our product development, bringing new products to life and getting those to market. And as well, I work with our marketing department as well for copy on the website, writing product manuals, things of that nature. So a lot of fun things going on, definitely.
Wow, great to have you today. All right, so we'll start with 3 of our questions. So I'll start one by one, then you take them one by one. So the first question that came in, is there a smoothing effect a DI box has on a distorted signal? Is there a smoothing effect a DI box has on a distorted signal?
That's a great question. And you brought up a point as well, just when you were talking about how you kind of got a smoother sound when you were using your keyboards through it, that you might sound, might end up being more harsh and clipping through other DI boxes. So one thing to clarify before I jump into that, though, is that a DI is really there to preserve the tone of your instrument. It's not trying to impart much else, but really, in our view, it's there to take the tone that you've worked hard to achieve if you're a guitar, bass player, or keyboard player, and get that as faithfully represented in the recording system as possible. So if you do have a sound that's already distorted before it hits the DI box, it still is going to be distorted at the other end. However, a place where a DI box or radio box can be particularly beneficial, you do have hot outputs. So got a hot output that's hitting a typical DI box that doesn't have a lot of headroom. What you do get into is square wave clipping, which can sound very harsh to our ears. It's kind of instantly recognizable and bad. So there's 2 ways around this, and we have 2 types of direct boxes that both tackle this in different ways. One is an active direct box with a signal pad so that it can accept a really hot signal level without reaching clipping. The other would be to use transformers, which is likely in the DI box that you were talking about, Caleb. And what happens there is that when a transformer gets hit with a very hot signal level, it doesn't actually clip in a square wave fashion the way that an active DI box. And so what happens there is that it kind of rounds off the peaks and valleys of the signal. It introduces some even order harmonics. And what that results in is it actually sounds a lot more pleasing to our ear than square wave distortion. And it can even warm up the tone, as you may have noticed in some cases as well. So if you have a previously distorted signal, DI box isn't really going to fix that, but a DI box will help out, smooth out something that might typically distort other interfaces.
Wow, that's great to know. All right, so we'll take the second question. What makes a signal source an instrument level, a line level, or a mic level? This sounds like a big question.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah. That's a good one to start with. It's those are the three signal levels that we're mainly concerned with, especially when we talk about things on our website and when we're describing our products. So if you think about on the spectrum, a line level signal is going to be the hottest signal. That's going to be the output of a channel on a mixing console. That's the line level signal is going to be what feeds your powered speakers or the output of a recording device. Those are all going to be line level signals. Mic level is much, much lower. It's a very weak signal. We call it mic level because it's typically the same as the output of a microphone on stage. So whereas line level is somewhere around 0 dB or plus 4 dB, mic level is going to be all the way down at about minus 40 dB. And it can vary, but these are general guidelines. So mic level is going to be much lower than line level. And on a PA mixer or console, the main job of your microphone preamps is actually to boost that mic signal up to line level. So that's why you've got that gain on each of those channels. Now, where we come into play is we have a lot of interface boxes, obviously, that work with instruments, and they all reside at what we call instrument level, which is somewhere in between the two. It generally hits at about minus 20 dB. So again, you've got your line level at about plus 4, microphone level all the way down at minus 40, and instrument level, which hits somewhere minus 20, sometimes as high as minus 10 or as low as minus 30. There's a lot of variance there depending on your type of instrument. But those are the three main signal levels that we're dealing with.
That's great. So if I get you, the hottest of them is, so just make it simple. The hottest of them is which one? Is the
line level, yeah. So
the line, and the instrument
hottest.
is in between the line and the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just to, yeah, that's it. Wow.
Sure.
So I think the very popular, sorry, the
Kim.
popular ones, popular ones you really hear of is the line and the mic level. Yeah. So it's interesting that we get to know that instrument level is in between both of them. Great. So you were saying something? All right.
That a little bit more. Instrument level, we don't hear about it quite as much because we're used to talking about mic and line level in audio systems. But the reason instrument level is important is because when you understand that it's not quite mic level and it's not line level, that's when it becomes important to actually utilize a direct box. Because what you're going to need is an interface box to kind of bring things into what the pro audio equipment's expecting. So whether that's a direct box that usually reduces the level of your instrument so that it can optimize for connection to a microphone preamp, or something that you can boost the gain so that it takes it to full line level so you can go directly into a recording interface. So yeah, it's once you start to get to know that instrument level, doesn't quite suit connecting directly to mic preamps, and it doesn't quite suit connecting directly to a line level instrument on an interface, that's where DI boxes and radial interfaces really start to come into play.
Wow. These are some secrets. Great. All right. So we take the third question. What is the best way to preserve the quality of playback tracks on a live event as an engineer, as a tech, or a musician? is there any best way or anyways, anyway?
For sure, yeah. There's lots of ways to tackle it when you've got playback tracks. In my opinion, the place that you should focus the most energy is on your D to A conversion, so your digital to
Okay.
analog signal conversion. So whether that's going from your laptop out to an analog signal to get to the P, or even if you've got a mobile phone or a tablet, which can be common to channel tracks as well. I think focusing on, again, the interface in that scenario is really where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. It's where a lot of the sound is going to derive from. So making sure that you choose something that's 24-bit, 96K at minimum, so that you've got a really high signal quality conversion, and then low noise, and preferably something, if you're going to interface with other devices, something that has transformer isolation. So Radio has a few products that handle this. One of which, off the top of my head, is the USB Pro, which connects to your laptop or computer USB cable, and that allows you to set tracks to the front of house. We also have a number of playback trackers, which make it so that not only can you connect your playback tracks to front of house, but you could use two redundant systems, so that if one were to fail, you can always instantly switch over to the second one, your backup, so that the audience really never know if you lose tracks during the middle of a performance. So in that case, the video you showed at the top, which shows our SW8 USB, that not only is an interface that allows you to connect playback tracks to the front of house, but that's a switcher also in one. So that's kind of both products combined together.
Wow, great. Then what about the backing track? Will it fall in this category? The backtrack? It would fall in that category.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Backing tracks, playback tracks, they're all kind of treated the same way. So yeah, definitely, making sure you pay attention to the D to A conversion, looking for something that possible has transformer isolation, because that's going to make sure that you eliminate ground loops and have less hum and buzz when you do connect to the PA. And you don't really need to go as far, if you don't have two laptops playing redundant systems, you don't necessarily need something quite as comprehensive as the SW8 USB. We make products even as simple as the SP5, which has a cable that actually connects from the DI itself right into the 3.5 millimeter jack on a phone or tablet, or if you have an adapter cable nowadays to make that happen. And then you can go to the PA over a mono transformer isolated channel. So there's lots of ways to do it. But again, making sure that you pay attention to your conversion and adding a transformer at the signal path would be the two best ways to get started.
All right. So like Steve said in his submission when he was talking about radio engineering, he mentioned a word called reamping.
Yeah.
Reamping is something that has become a bit more interesting here. I have people asking what reamping is. We have people asking why reamping, and we'd like you to tackle that. What is it? Why is it? Is it necessary? What are the advantages of reamping, and how can we reamp?
For sure. Yeah, that's great. That's one of my favorite questions. Reamping is near my heart. Since I've been in the studio world, this is kind of where it got started. So to break it down, what reamping is it's a two-step process. So the first step in reamping is capturing what we call a clean or dry track. So reamping usually involves guitar or bass, so that's all I'll describe it to start with, but it can be used for other instruments. But for your clean track, what you would use is a direct box, which is why it works so well with us here at Radio. But you would record your guitar or bass directly into the direct box, and then at the same time you could also your pedals and go through an amplifier the same way you typically record. But what that DI track gives us is it really gives us a recording of the performance without any of the sounds of the room tone, mic bleed that might happen. Your microphone may have moved during the recording session and the tone may have changed. So it kind of gives you this backstop later. But to involve reamping, the second step, to really make it useful. So the second step in reamping is taking that pre-recorded dry track and getting it out of your computer or out of your recording interface and back into your pedals and amplifiers. So that's where reamping really comes into play. So a reamp box at its simplest takes a line level output audio interface. And again, since we were talking about signal levels, this is helpful, but the output of your audio interface is going to be that hot signal level. It's going to be line level. What a reamp box does is it'll take it from line level down slightly into the instrument level range, and it'll also change the impedance and the connector type so that you can interface that signal directly with your pedals and amplifiers. So where this becomes really powerful is that you've got these DI tracks for your guitar or bass. If, say, you're starting to mix and you really don't like the sound that you got on that day recording, something was wrong with the amplifier, it was too buzzy, you got bleed from the drums if you were recording drums at the same time, you didn't like the microphone placement, any number of reasons you might want to change things. Now with reamping, you can go back and do that. So you take your DI track and you can feed it back through an amplifier, and it should be the same amp. You can try and test out different amplifiers, test out different microphones, mic placement settings. You can really geek out on it, which is why I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. The cool thing about it as well is that because you're recording the performance and you get that clean capture of it, you're not going to burn out your guitar player's fingers trying to get the perfect setting. So you're not trying to say, hey, can you just play this song on loop while I mess around with all these different mics and amps?
So it's more about
it saves your guitar. Yeah, you can save your instrumentalist's fingers for sure, and save time in the studio as well. If you're at a larger facility and you're trying to record the whole band at once, you can do that, and then later on, you can go to a smaller overdub room and a deep dive into what kind of guitar and amp settings you want to do. So that's what it is in a nutshell.
Wow.
It's really powerful because that's a cool place to start. But you can really use it with any kind of signals, and the sky's the limit in terms of how creative you want to get with it. You don't really need to just use guitar or bass. You can use vocals even, drums, horns, any kind of signal that you've got pre-recorded. It doesn't even need to be a DI track. So that's one thing that's really cool about a reamp box is it takes signals from the pro audio world and lets you feed them back through your pedals and amplifiers for cool effects.
Wow. I think what you said answers the next question. What type of signals can a reamp handle? So I think that will be line level, right?
Yeah. Reamping handles line level signals. And then in terms of like what sound source as well, like I said, the sky's the limit. We start with guitar and bass because those are the most commonly used. But you vocals, you can any pre-recorded track that you've got and send it back out through your pedals or through your amplifier. And that does bring up one product that's pretty unique to us as well. That's called the EXTC. And what's cool about that is once you know about reamping and how you can take your line level signal and feed it back through your amplifier, that opens up a lot of possibilities. However, in a mixing situation, there's not a lot of tracks that sound really good through a guitar amplifier besides guitar and bass. The cool thing about the EXTC is it actually takes the amplifier out of the equation while still letting you reamp. So what it does is it allows you to take a line level signal, again, bump it down to instrument level so that you can interface it with your guitar pedals. But then what's unique about it is you can plug your guitar pedals right back into the EXTC and it'll take it up to line level for you. So you can go right back into an interface. So what this does is it takes the amplifier out of the equation and really allows you to use your guitar pedal collection as if they were outboard studio gear. So a lot of guitar pedals sound really cool. And what's unique about that is that, you've got delays, choruses, fuzz, all that stuff that you could use on any track. And when you've got something like the XTC, it unlocks it so that you can use it as if it's a piece of studio outboard gear. So then it really can be powerful for use on vocals, strings, anything of that nature.
Wow, that's great. All right. So we'll be on a short commercial break where we'll take some 2 videos. We come back and we take the rest of the questions. I think so far we've been able to capture the smoothing effect of a DI box where Mike spoke about different type of waves. That we have the square, we have the triangle, we have the saw, and the DI box is having a transformer that smoothings the edges of it. So that edge smoothing process is what makes it pleasant to the ear to listen to. And he's also spoke about instrument level, line level, and mic level. Instrument level being in between both line level and mic level. Mic level is the lowest, line level is the highest, instrument level is in between. Then he also spoke about quality of playbacks, where he spoke about the D to A conversion, that's the digital to analog conversion. If you want a good playback, for it to play back the way it's supposed to, you need to have a good DA. And there are quite some number of solutions from radio engineering. The very common one is the USB Pro. Yeah, and he also spoke about reamping, where you take the line signal after recording. You take the line signal of, let's say, the guitar, and you put it into the reamp unit, and it breaks it. It takes it down a bit into the instrument level, and you can connect it to your amp for re-recording, rematching of microphone, amp, and all those things. Yeah. Then he also spoke about the types of signals, and he mentioned that with reamping, the sky is the limit. you can try as much as combinations you want to do, as far as you can. Yeah. So we'll be taking a short commercial break. We come back, and we are going to take the rest of the question. If you have any question, please feel free to drop it in the comment section, and Mike and Steve will do justice to them. So all right, welcome to Question and Answers with Radio Engineering. We are streaming live from Audiovisual Systems, Wager, Accra, Ghana. And we are pleased to have Steve McKay and Mike Boer on the call to give us some good answers to the questions we've been asking for years. Yeah, so to take the next set of questions, we'd like to hear from Mike if he has, we'd like to hear from Steve if he has any contribution on the questions Mike just answered, and we take the next set of questions. So can we hear from Steve? Hi, Steve.
Sorry, I'm losing your audio, Caleb.
Oh, sorry.
You're getting extremely quiet.
Sorry about that.
Can you repeat what you were asking? Because I wasn't able to hear it.
We had some answers to the questions by Michael, but we'd just like to hear some few contributions from your side. Then we take the next set of the questions. Can you hear me now? Hi, Steve.
I'm getting very, very little audio.
Wow. Is it better now?
Yes, that's better. Yeah.
All right, sure. So we had some answers from Michael, and we would like to hear from you on the submissions. Then we take the next set of questions. So do you have anything to say?
I think Mike's answering the questions very well.
Great.
And much better than from a technical perspective. But I just want to emphasize that our role as is treat all of these situations where you're connecting various pieces of gear on stage and finding the correct way to get it out to either the front or recording device, your laptop, and all of these situations are different, and they have to treat it as such. So in every case, you sit down and say, okay, how do we get a complete trans signal from the stage and get it to the final source destination that we need, and all the components necessary to do that for this task. Vary on the task, but also vary on the level of performance that you're looking for. So in your first step into the world of DI and interfaces, we have our lower priced stage bugs. Then we move up to our Pro series, and then we move again to the Ultimate, which are J series. So those are all different price levels, are all aimed at different states of performing, whether you're playing once or twice a week at a local venue, or you're playing regularly every week, or you're going out on wide. There's different levels required for each of the locations, and we treat them differently. So that's something that I emphasize, that that quality of the audio, we treat audio gold. It's got to be getting that exact signal from the stage to your destination.
All right, great. So we have three basic categories of the DI boxes. To make it simple, we have the SV, that's the stage bag, right? And we have the Pro Series. Then we have the JDI, which is the top of the line. Yeah, all aimed at different consumers, but still having the radial soul in them. Yeah, right, right, great, great. All right, so we've started having some more questions that came in. So Michael says, what is the rule of thumb in matching instrument to either passive or active? So people are caught up in choosing between active and passive. What's the rule of thumb? Is there a secret that we need to know that, okay, for this instrument it's active or passive? All right, Mike.
Yeah, for sure. This is a really common question that we get, obviously, because we've got so many DIs and they are split into those two categories, active and passive. So there is a rule of thumb, thankfully, and like most rules, it's meant to be broken. You can kind of use any kind of DI with any instrument, but the general rule of thumb is that if you have an active instrument, that is something that has a preamp built into it, connects to power like a keyboard, or has a 9-volt battery in it like an active bass. Any active instrument, you're going to want to pair that with a passive DI box. And then the opposite is true as well. So if you have a passive instrument, one that doesn't have a built-in powered preamp, that doesn't connect to power, you're probably going to prefer using an active direct box. And there's a couple reasons for that. I'll start with the whole active instrument passive direct box. So with an active instrument, because they're powered, they're typically going to have a higher output. Within that range we talked about with instrument level signals, could be -20, but it could be as hot as -10 or as low as -30. When you have a powered active instrument, it's probably going to be on the higher end range of that. So what you're going to prefer typically is going to be a passive direct box. And again, it's because it has that transformer inside that handles signals so well. And even if you push it into distortion, it actually, instead of distorting, it saturates, as we said. It kind of smooths out the tone. So it imparts a lot of warmth onto active instruments, which can sometimes sound a little brittle or harsh on their own. So we do find that people prefer them for that reason. The other reason to go with a passive DI when you have an active instrument is if you have anything that's powered and you're trying to connect against a powered PA system or recording interface, you do have the chance of running into ground loops, which can bring hum and buzz into this system. It can be really tough to remove. However, one extra benefit of having a transformer, not only does it work in the DI box to do the conversion and work as an interface, but it provides isolation between the source and the destination. And it can really easily break up ground loops so that you don't even run into hum and buzz that you might normally get. So for that reason, if you have an active instrument, you are typically going to go with the passive direct box. Now on the other side, the flip side of things, if you have a passive instrument, that's generally going to be a little bit quieter. It's not going to have quite as high an output as something with a 9-volt battery in it. So in that case, the typical preference is to go with an active direct box. And an active direct box, because I haven't really defined it yet, but an active direct box is really a DI box that uses power to operate. So it can either have a power supply that you need to connect to it, or it can use 48-volt phantom power supply from the console itself. But typically use a transformer to drive the circuit. It uses active circuitry, meaning it has power going through. What it can do is this can actually have a little bit higher output level than a typical passive DI, which can be beneficial again if you have a passive instrument and it has a lower output. The other thing that a lot of players find is that it imparts a little bit of kind of like top end. We use a lot of words to describe it. Brightness might be one of the more typical ones. It's something that's like a shimmer or kind of air to the signal. That we find a lot of players just prefer. So for that reason, if you have active and passive instruments, you're going to want to go with kind of the corresponding opposite for the DI box.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So I think when you mentioned the transformers are not only for the DI boxes but for isolators, I just remembered last week I had a gig. This one was just recent, and we used the SB6. I think you can see the SB6. It's a very simple interface, but it does the work so well. So we finished the sound check, and the light guy came in, he connected stuff, and we're hearing some ground loops and all over, and we wanted to get power from a different place. It wasn't possible. We had to share power. And I just got this in my bag. I picked it up and connected it. So this is a stereo isolator. We just got some balance jacks to XLRs on corresponding side, and we put it in between the signal, and it worked like magic. It worked like magic. So I really agree to the fact that the isolator has a transformer that does the work not only in a DI box but for eliminating these kind of ground loops. All right, thank you very much. Then also, what's the difference between radial products from others? People ask us, every DI is a DI box. Is it true? Or
I think
would Steve like to answer this?
I think one of the things that when I first got involved with radial is going to shops and faced with that question. What I do is take those competitive boxes and open them up and open up the radial. And quite often it's shocking. Look a box, the circuit board, military circuit board, the construction of the is 14 gauge steel. It has an isolation pad on the bottom of it, and if you go through and look at the circuit and there is mounted soldered, and we every piece that we manufacture goes through through Q. I've seen other boxes that have transformers glued to the circuit board. The circuit board is a mess, and they break down. One of my favorite stories was from a distributor in the Middle East trying to sell a customer, a sound company, radial boxes. And customers said, already got some good DI boxes. I just spent my radial boxes. And the distributor just didn't have any luck convincing him. And as illustration, at the end of it, he took the box that the customer he took a radial box and threw them both out the second store. And then he said, now we'll see which will work. And the radial worked, the other one did not. And the customer said, okay, I'll deal.
Wow.
And it's really at every stage of the manufacturing process, and then that QC, because our reputation is based upon the fact that we don't only provide the best sound, we provide the best reliability, provide the warranty. You truly get what you pay for. That's the big difference.
Wow. Wow. You truly get what you pay for with radial engineering. All right. Do we have some questions? All right. There's one question. So, why are there a variety of DI boxes tailored to suit different purposes? I think maybe we can talk a little more about the SB, the Pro range, and the JDI. Is there any reason aside the price? Is there any reason why we have different DI boxes? And aside these three categories, is there any reason why we have something like the Trim 2? We have the AV series. That's the AV Pro, AV2, and AV1. Is there any reason why can't we use the AV2 for this? Why can't you use this for that? Even though it's still passive. I don't know where you're getting me. So example, Trim 2, as I know, Trim 2, you can't use it for guitars. They will not give you good output as much as Pro DI will do for you. Yeah, so that's the question. So I don't know if you get a mic.
Yeah,
Why is
sure.
there a specific one for a specific thing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we really have a ton of different DI boxes, so it can get kind of confusing when you look at all of them thinking, why can't, like you said, why can't I use the Pro 81 and the Pro 82 with my instrument? Thankfully, with that one, you can. A lot of them, the main difference between a lot of the different DI boxes we have is simply the connectivity options that we provide or the extra features that are built into them. So you said, for example, those are similar to our other product. They're the more economical version, but they're also really compact. They can fit inside a guitar case, so they're for specific purposes where you really just don't have the extra space to carry something larger. But then in the case of the Pro AV1, the Pro AV2, those we see used by a lot of AV integrators because they have a lot of connections on them as well. So they don't just have the quarter-inch connection like the Pro DI would, which is very similar internally to the Pro AV1 and Pro AV2. But they also have RCA connectors. They have a 3.5 mil connector that can sum down to mono or operate in stereo on the Pro AV2. So it really is the reason, part of the reason why we have so many products is just because we try and tailor them to so many different customer applications so that they're really purpose built. Another example would be the PZDI, which is very, very similar to our J48, which is a really great active DI box. What the PZDI does that's different from that is that it also offers a selectable load impedance on the inputs, which means that you can optimize that for use with other acoustic instruments, especially ones that use piezo transducers inside them. So again, it's kind of like cars that use the same chassis that have different features and different things built on top of them. The PZDI is very, very similar internally, especially in terms of sound quality and conversion quality to the J48, but it does offer those few extra features. It's got a filter that can roll off low frequencies, so you can kind of take the rumble out of something. Say you're connecting into the DI box. It allows you to adjust the input impedance so you can smooth out piezo transducers. So there's lots of examples like that all throughout what we've got, just because there's just so many different types of instruments and so many different applications that people have, that we've really tried to accommodate as many different scenarios as possible. And like you say with the Trim 2, another product where you really need something to connect between a playback device and the PA system, where you would want a level control at the handy. And while it's not optimized for use with guitars, it does very well at that one application. So that's part of the reason why we've got such a wide catalog and so many options. But to build on Steve's point earlier, talking about what sets Radial apart, one of the things that we also really pride ourselves on is customer support and allowing ourselves to really be easy to contact, direct people to the right product. We know that we've got a massive catalog of DIs, and it can be hard to navigate. So we try and be as reachable as possible. And if ever anybody has a question about a specific application, you can always feel free to get in touch with us directly. We're always happy to kind of direct people to exactly what the right product would be for them.
Yeah. Wow. This is very true, because myself and Steve, we really worry Steve with questions. Yeah. So we have customers coming in, they want a particular answer. We give to them, but we want to reinforce it from manufacturer. And Steve has been very helpful with that. And I can say Radial gives a very good customer support. Yeah. After you sell the product, you still have some value. Yeah, still have some value. And we are really grateful for all these things you do for industry. All right, so I think we have some few questions, but if you are on the live stream, kindly do well to add in your questions so we can do some justice to them. We have some few questions to go, and I think we'll go on a commercial break. Then we take the last set, answer them, then we can say bye. All right, so let's go for a commercial break.
Hi, I'm Jay Porter with an overview of the acoustic series from Radial Engineering. So the acoustic series is 4 different acoustic preamps for any type of player. Starting with the PZ Pro, this is our flagship of the line. This is the full 2-channel acoustic command center, if you will. So this is 2 full EQ sections, allows player to blend 2 different sources together, whether it's 2 different magnetics, a magnetic and a piezo, or even a pickup and a microphone can be all blended together, EQ'd separately, and create a nice combined sound. Or for the player that has a couple different instruments on stage, they can make sure they're EQ'd and level matched across both instruments, grab one, and you're good to go. You've got your mute switch, so for silent switching and on-stage tuning. You've got a clean boost, which can be toggled on and off, and can be combined with an effects loop with the middle foot switch, and then you can toggle between the 2 channels with the AB control here. Flip around to the back, you've got a pre and post direct box output, so nice high quality radial DI outs. You can go pre-EQ if your sound engineer wants something that's not affected by the EQ on this pedal, and then post, keep your nice EQ sound on stage or in the studio. 48 volt phantom power microphone input for those nice clip-on condensers, and then your 1/4 inch inputs with selectable piezo boosters so you can get the right input impedance for your piezo pickup when you're using either of these inputs. Next is the PZ Pre. So the PZ Pre is also a 2-channel, but it shares the EQ across both channels. So this is a little bit more suitable for somebody that's got 2 very similar sounding instruments or 2 very similar sounding pickups. They can blend or use instruments separately, but a little bit more simplified by just having that single EQ section. Again, it's got your boost, it's got a mute switch for silent tuning, and also has the pre and post DI outputs, just like its big brother, the PZ Pro. Next we have the PZ Deluxe, which offers an even more simplified EQ section. So not to get too confusing, just allows you to fix those problems on stage and maybe tailor your sound a little bit more the way you like it. Also has a mute switch for that, again, for that silent on-stage tuning, and still does have the clean boost. Single DI output on this one, so this is post EQ, so you just have that 1-channel output, but a little bit simpler and easier, especially for somebody that's only using a single instrument or a single pickup source. Finally, we have the AC driver. So the AC driver is for somebody that just needs a little bit more than a DI. So basic simple DI box, except it has a low cut and a filter. So you can get rid of that low frequency rumble and maybe notch out a feedback frequency on stage, but you can still mute for tuner output. Do that on stage tuning, and then again high quality radial DI box output. So the acoustic series from Radial, no matter what you need, you kind of have a solution here for your acoustic guitar on stage or in the studio.
All right, welcome back to Audiovisual Systems. Here in Ghana, we are live streaming and we are hosting Steve and Mike from Radial Engineering, and they've been of great resource to us. They've been answering all our questions with respect to DI box, reamping, and Radial Engineering products in general. So we got some few questions that came up. Okay, so from Walter, please do something. Can you please lower the price for us? Okay, I think just to chip it in with what Steve says, you get value for money. With Radial Engineering, you get value for money. So I did a bit of a background and I realized that the transformer Radial uses on their product has a 20-year warranty. I hope I'm right. It has a 20-year warranty. That's the JDI. And I was blown away because using an equipment for 20 years, I think it's even worth over time. Like you've got the benefit of it severally. So having that quality in a box that you can rely on day in, day out, I think it's worth the every CD spent. And when you come to Audiovisual Systems, we have very great offers on Radial products. We run special discounts for Radial products in general, and when you come, we can get you sorted at a very good rate. Trust me, at a very good rate. Then we also have one question. So someone says, I'm new to DI boxes. Do I need to use them at all? Like, do I need them? Why can't I use something like a jack to a mill to a mixer directly? Do I need to use DI boxes? He's new to DI boxes, and he feels that he's fine not using them. Is there anything we can tell him?
Well, I think,
Yeah.
as you mentioned at the beginning, Caleb, you mentioned being out on a live gig and having a keyboard connection that sounded great, and then your next gig you went to, it didn't sound great. What was the reason for that? It was the DI box. So
Definitely.
when you, as Mike had described, all the different levels, line level, instrument level, mic level, then you have impedance differences, you have character of sound differences, and getting yours out to the front of house or to the recording device is what we consider a critical task. So while you can connect directly and you get a sound, when you connect properly with the correct DI box, your sound is going to be amazingly better. And that's what our job is to provide the best quality sound possible.
Wow. Great. Mike, do you have something to add?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
On Steve's point, yeah, just to add on to what Steve's saying is that
All right.
One thing that's important to us is really preserving the tone of the instrument. We know how much effort that guitar players and any instrumentalist puts into getting their instrument to sound as good as possible. So for me, it's always a shame when that all the work that's put into that instrument is lost when you connect through something inferior or kind of neglect using a proper interface when going to the recording system or going to the PA system. So one of the beauty of a good DI box is that it does capture exactly all that work that you put into creating and crafting your tone and delivers that faithfully to the PA. So that's one of the real benefits of going through a high quality direct box in the recording or playing live.
Great. Great. Then there's another question. Is using two mono DI boxes the same as using a single stereo DI boxes? So we have people, and so there's a gentleman that came in to get some DI boxes for his rental business, and he gave me a little background that his rental business sometimes splits. So sometimes they have events that are not too hard on stereo keyboards, example. They just do mono stuff, and some gigs they do stereo because mostly it's going to be a recording. So he asked for advice, and he wanted a stereo block, and I told him you can get a stereo block. It's cheaper because you save some few CDs. But what happens when you have two different bands on two different gigs? It means that you cannot split the stereo DI box. And he asked this question that, okay, so is it going to change the sound if he uses two mono boxes as against one stereo box when he has a gig that requires stereo? So Mike, can you help us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is there really isn't much difference between using a mono DI box, two mono DI boxes versus a stereo box in terms sonically. As you mentioned, yeah, it's easier to have two channels in one chassis. It's more compact and more economical if you need to purchase multiple channels. But really, in all of our DI boxes, stereo included, and even some of our 8-channel ones, we use them all as discrete channels, meaning that each input and output is connected just to itself and it doesn't interact with other channels. So say you have a stereo DI box, you could connect one instrument to the left channel and a completely different instrument to the right channel. And conversely, you can use two mono DI boxes and send stereo signal through the left channel through one mono DI and the right channel through another mono DI, and it's no different. So sonically, you can absolutely split and use two mono DI boxes in place of the stereo DI box.
Wow. Okay, so the answer I gave the guy was to get two mono DI boxes, so he's able to
Yeah,
split. It was a good one, right?
it was a good one. Yeah, no, you were right on the money.
Sure, sure, sure. Nice, 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 nice. All right. So I would just like to go through some of the products we have, some of our best selling products over here. I would just like to show them live so you see them, that we have them here. So the first one, which is one of our top sellers, is the SB. The SB, this is the SB1 and this is the SB2. So the difference between this is the green is for passive and the blue is the active. One thing about radial is their colors are eye-catching. They are eye-catching. When you see a radial box, you never close your eyes. You'd see it. Yeah, and the SB1 is the active mono DI box. That's the stage bag. So these series are made for musicians that need to carry things easily. They don't need to carry too heavy of equipment in their bags. They just need to put it probably in their pocket and they just go to the gig. And they sound amazing. So there was an A and B we did somewhere, and we used this to do the A and B. They brought every kind of DI box they could bring, and just this guy was able to make radio engineering proud. Yeah, and I would recommend it for any musician that wants to sound good on stage without a lot of effort. Example, you're able to capture the real tone of your instrument, be it bass guitar. This particular one is powered by phantom power. Radio engineering doesn't do DI boxes that are powered by batteries. All the actives are powered by phantom power. So all you need to do is to connect it to your system, put on phantom power, connect your instrument, and you are good to go. It has very, very transparent sound. The sound is very transparent. One nice thing about this is the extended frequency. The extended frequency range is, I think it's a bonus to it. You can go as low as 20 hertz, and you can hear a lot of thickness in the sound. You can hear a lot of body in the sound when you use this. And this is the passive, which usually we recommend it to be used on keyboards and active instruments. Like Mike said, you take the exact opposite. So if you have an active instrument which has a preamp in it, it means you have to interface it with a passive DI box. And this is the stage bag 2 that we use for this, for that purpose. Then we also have the Pro Series. The Pro Series, we have 3 types. We have the Pro DI, we have the Pro 48, and we have the Pro D2. We have 3 of them, not 2, sorry. So the Pro 48 is the active version of the mono professional DI box from Radial Engineering, and it has very simple connection. It has the input, it has the through to the amp, it has the out, the ground lift, and definitely it has the pad. So if you want something more versatile, sometimes people say, okay, they want to take either active or passive. Usually I would go with the active if the person maybe wants to get one thing and doesn't want to get 2 of them. But the truth is, if you interface the active onto a passive, you get a lot of benefit with that. So you get this. If you are overloading too much, you activate your pad and you are good to have a good sound in your system. So this is the active Pro 48 DI box from Radio Engineering. Then we have the Pro D1. The Pro D1. Sorry, the Pro DI. So the Pro DI is the passive mono DI box from Radio Engineering. It has the same stuff around it. The only thing is that this is not powered by phantom power. This is a passive circuit system. Then we have its senior brother, which is the Pro D2. The Pro D2 is it's also beginning to become a bestseller here in Ghana. It's a stereo passive DI box for keyboards, for anything active. You can use it for a drum machine, anything that has active source. If you have a guitar pedal, it's an active source. You can interface it and it would work perfectly with it, and gives you a very good sound on the output. It also has the pad on the both left and right, and it has the ground lift as well. Then we have the I call them the guys themselves. That's the JDI series. So the JDI, we have two types. We have the JDI stereo and we have the JDI mono, just like we had the Pro D, the Pro DI and the Pro D2. So the JDI is having the legendary Jensen transformer inbuilt it, and this has two of that inbuilt it, and they do something special to the sound that is very difficult to explain. Trust me, they just take the sound and they make the sound better. No matter how you want your sound to be better, they make it that better, and they are very similar to the Pro D2. The only thing is the transformer inside it is it's a Jensen transformer, same kind of interfacing, front and back. Yeah, so you can use these ones. We actually recommend these ones also for keyboards, drum machines, and active instrument. Then we have the J48. The J48 is the active version of the J series. So with this, you can do some interesting stuff. If you want to do some low cut to your instrument, maybe you want to just take out that low frequency rumble before it hits your preamp, it's a good place to start it. So you can just activate that. And one nice thing about the active circuit about the J series is it has what we call the reverse. That's the polarity reverse. So in a case that you are having multiple, let's say you're having a guitar going through the DI and the amp which is mic'd, you can just enter into some phase issues. Maybe the mic is, the polarity is just reversed or something. You just activate this so it sums up better with the signal there, then they can join in nicely. So this has that nice thing. And also it has the merge feature where you can merge, you can take two signals and merge them as one, so it shows up as a mono signal. You don't just get the left side of the signal, you don't get the right side of the signal. You actually are going to get the left and the right out of this. And this is a mono DI box as well, and it has a pad turret and it has a ground. Definitely you cannot have a DI box without the ground turret. Yeah, so these are some of the DI boxes we have, and we also have the PZ DI, which is for piezo instruments, and they are very similar. Like Mike says, they are very similar to the J48. The only thing is that their impedance, you can change them. They has 3 variable impedance where you can change them, to match your instrument better. All right, so I think we have, let me see if we have some questions. Okay, someone says, I like their idea of only phantom power, no stress about batteries. Yeah, sometimes you go on a gig, it's happened before several times where you've installed a 9-volt and you just know that, okay, it works all the time. You go to the gig, you realize that the sound is weak. It's very, very weak. And it may not cross your mind that it's the power, it's not getting enough power. You could be that, oh, maybe some cables. See, you change your cables, change it, and it's not going to work till you change that battery. So I think it's a very good, at least you don't have any double thoughts that, oh, should I change battery or not? Just put on your phantom power, and that would give you a very reliable power to your DI box. And I think it's a great design, and we really applaud Radial for that. And another thing, I didn't tell Steve about this, but another thing I like about Radial is whether it's active or passive is the same price. So you can't really choose based on price. You are going to choose based on the function. So if it's an active and passive, they are the same prices for both of them because they are both designed with the best of integrity that you can ever imagine. All right. So can we have I hope we've answered all the questions. If we've let me just check the chats and see. Okay. All right. So there's another question. So in connecting a keyboard to a DI box, do you recommend a TS to TS or a TRS to a TRS? Because some keyboards, when you look in their manual, the output is a balanced jack output. Is it going to make a difference if I'm going to use a TS to a TS cable to connect that keyboard to a DI box, against me using a TRS to a TRS cable?
Good question. If you're connecting and you're using just short cables to go from your keyboard to your DI box, it's really not going to make a difference whether you use a full balanced TRS or a TS connection. The reason for that being is that the direct box itself is only going to have TS inputs, since it's expecting the outputs from an unbalanced instrument. So what will happen is you connect your TRS cable from your keyboard into the direct box. The direct box will usually just ignore the ring connector and treat it as if it's a TS cable. Yeah. So if you did have balanced outputs on your keyboard, sometimes that's a case where you may want to use an isolator in place. That is, if you do have true line level balanced outputs, so you can still get the benefits of channel. But again, you can also do a passive DI box, like you said, and use TS or TRS cables to connect to it. Both will work just fine.
Wow. Thanks a lot. Steve, please, do you have any submission?
No, I don't think I have anything to add.
All right. All right. So, guys, I think that's all time could give to us. If you have any questions, please drop it, because getting these guys is going to be tough again. They are very busy guys, and we really appreciate your time. And I know is it 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning in Canada?
It's now 8:30 in the morning, so
8:30 in the
I've
morning.
managed to have coffee in me.
Wow, great. We really appreciate the time, and we appreciate the knowledge that you really poured into us this afternoon here in Ghana, and we don't take it lightly at all. And everyone at Audiovisual Systems says a big thank you to Steve and to Mike for making some good time for us. And we promise that we are going to have more of these to make sure that the community is well knowledgeable when it comes to things special like DI boxes, especially the ones from Radio Engineering. And we are so grateful. I think we don't have any more questions, if I'm right. If that's the case, maybe we'd like to get some last words from each of you, then we call it a day.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. Thank you, Caleb, for hosting this. It's really appreciate your time as well. It's always a challenge, different time zones of the world, but it's our honor and privilege to be able to join. And thank you all for being there, and we appreciate.
Great. Michael, last words?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that as well. Thanks, Caleb, for putting this together and having us here, and everybody that joined in. It's always a pleasure to answer people's questions. Like I mentioned, that's a point of pride for us. Is something that we try and do to the best of our abilities, is answer any questions that our customers have and help direct them to the right solution. So I guess just in closing, if anybody has any questions that weren't answered here, or you think of something later, you can always reach out. If you contact info@radioemg.com, those emails generally go to me or one of my colleagues, and we're always happy to help anytime.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for everyone who joined online. And we hope to have more of these sessions. We promise to make sure that we'll have more of these sessions so we can share some knowledge and some insights and make sure that we all grow and become excellent at the craft that we've all taken. Yeah, be it a bass guitarist, be it an electric guitarist, even a drummer, you can benefit from some of these products because you're going to play some loops in some cases, and you're going to play some drum machine stuff. Yeah, and keyboardists. Yeah, anyone who does anything with instrument, especially electronic instruments, I think the radial range of product is a best choice for you. And one of my favorite products has become the Relay. So the Relay is a product that you can speak to two outputs in a system. So a very typical example is you can do your connection such that your A output goes to your front of house engineer and your B output probably goes to your monitor engineer. You could also do it such that as a musician, the musician can have the A going to the engineer and the B going to the band. And you can also do the connection such that as a singer, the A goes to the main house, that's the main mix, and the B goes to the band. So if you are in the middle of a song using one microphone, you can just switch the foot and just speak to the band. Maybe you tell them to take the intro again, or take verse 1, take verse 2, and no one in the house is going to hear that with the same microphone. Once you switch to the next one, then it's in the house now. And these products are I don't know, anytime we get to use them and talk about them, we see that these products are products that you can use them for as much as you can think. Yeah, they are not restricted to what they can be used for. Just make sure you are using them within the designed range, and you would have fun with them. And we promise a very good discount on radial engineering products from now till the end of July. We are running a very good promo on radial engineering products. So if you want to purchase radial DI boxes, you want to purchase any of their product ranges, the relay, you want to purchase the direct drive, which is one of my new favorite as well. That's the I call it the combo. It gives you a very good combo tone without stress. So instead of having a combo and miking it with a dynamic mic or condenser or ribbon mic, you are going to have that change from gig to gig, because you could have humidity change, you could have distance between the cabinet and the microphone, you could have maybe gain structure within the microphone affecting how it's going to pick up the amp. You could have acoustic differences in the rooms that's going to capture, with the mic will also capture a part of that. And this makes it consistent. So if you want that consistent tone with your guitar without thinking too much about how far should I go from the cabinet, the direct drive is the best tool to do that. And you can get all these products we've mentioned and we've shown at Audiovisual System at Wager Whitecross. So Wager Whitecross, once you hit the Tetegu junction, you ask for Whitecross. We are just on the roadside. You will not get missing at all. You will not get missing. Just ask for Whitecross, and when you get to Whitecross, we are inside the premises of the first Guel filling station, and you can easily get in touch with us. If you have any questions that you would like us to give some more assistance to, you can reach us on our various social media handles, on Facebook Audiovisual Systems, on Instagram Audiovisual System, and also on Twitter. You can reach us on Twitter, and you can get in touch with us on WhatsApp as well. And I think we'll share the links to some of our products in the comment section, so that you can have access to them. And also you can view our full catalog of what we sell here at Audiovisual Systems on www.avsghana.com. So www.avsghana.com, and you see a lot of great products available for you to purchase. So my name is Caleb Ashonkatai. I happen to be the manager here at Audiovisual System, and it's a great pleasure to have Steve and Michael join us this afternoon. And this is our way of saying goodbye.
Thank you to everyone.
One of the things we're asked most frequently about at Radial Engineering is reamping. Why do you do it? How do you do it? And why do you have 4 different boxes that accomplish the same thing? So today we're going to take you through the process. Really, reamping is giving you the ability to change the guitar sound after the musician has left the room. The musician can record their sound through an amplifier, but then the studio engineer can later play back that guitar sound through any different amp or any different combination of pedals and get a variety of different sounds and tones. So today what we're going to do is record the musician through an amplifier, as you always would. Today we're using a Fender Champ and an Ibanez TS9. We're recording it with a microphone. But we're also going to take a direct signal from a Radial J48, so we get that clean direct sound that later on we'll use for reamping. So later we will take that sound and send it through all 4 of our different reamp boxes to explore the tone differences between each. Okay, first we have our Pro RMP. This is the entry-level reamp box from Radial. XLR input, ground lift, output control, and there is an output level on this to give basically a trim control to adjust the output to the amplifier. Next we have the X-Amp, and this is the active reamp box from Radial. So we have XLR input, ground lift, external power supply is required for this box. We have a direct out and an isolated out, so you can actually go to 2 amplifiers at the same time, with the isolated out being transformer isolated to prevent hum or buzz to the second amplifier. And then you have a level control on this one as well. Because this is an active box, you're going to hear a bit more gain capability from this box to drive the front end of that amplifier a little bit harder. Next we have the Reamp JCR. So this is the original reamp design from John Cuniberti. So John Cuniberti basically invented the commercial reamp box. We ended up purchasing the company some years ago, and this is his original circuit with his original custom wound transformer inside. So XLR in, a level control, input for TRS 1/4 inch, as well as an output to your amplifier. This also has a high pass, a low pass, and a flat filter, and then a mute control, just for a little bit of extra functionality on this. So this is a passive box, much like the Pro RMP, but it has a little bit of character from that custom transformer that John specified for this box originally. And finally we have the EXTC reamp from Radial, and this box was originally designed to reamp through a guitar pedal chain. So you have 2 independent effects loops send out to your guitar pedal and back in. But you can also use it to reamp directly into a guitar amplifier, as we have with the other box. Just go out one of the 1/4 inch outputs, use your level control, set and adjust, and use it exactly as you would one of the other reamp boxes. Now let's take a listen to a few audio clips from the different boxes and see how they sound. So as you've heard, the differences between these different reamp boxes are subtle. The Pro RMP has a lot less gain than the other 3 boxes, but it does get the point across very well. When you get into the X-Amp, a little bit brighter on the top end, whereas the JCR seems a little bit more round and a little warmer, passive versus active. Whereas the EXTC has the ability to really crush the front end of the amplifier just because it has so much more level. If you'd like to listen in more detail, high-res audio clips for all of these samples are available on the Radial Engineering website.
DBU line level XLR output is balanced and isolated for direct connection to consoles and recording interfaces. A Jensen-equipped mic level XLR output is provided for those who prefer to connect their direct boxes to their favorite microphone preamp. The 1/4 inch processed output will feed an unbalanced HDI signal to amplifiers or effects pedals. The Mini Jackson input is a mono input for easy connection to modular synthesizers. An additional 1/4 inch input is provided on the back panel for hardwired applications such as the Studio Patch Bay. The HDI can be used as a standalone device or can be rack mounted using the included adapter kit. With a bold look and a unique sound, the HDI will no doubt make an impact in professional studios and concert touring.